So what we need to understand is this Sermon on the Mount thing that he is proclaiming, this kingdom manifesto. He's basically coming to his disciples, these people who would be following him, and just saying, listen, I'm bringing you in, I'm calling you in, I'm ushering you into this new way of doing life. There's a key to that phrase. There's a new way to doing life. That's not just about the things that we do, but it's how our heart has been shaped in such a way that we live for him in such a way that our lives look radically upside down from the rest of the world. And the struggle that we face in the world, I think today, is just simply this. In the church today, Christians today, it just seems like there's a missing element of like what we talk about and what actually comes out of our lives. Again, not so much here, but just generally speaking. What he's calling us to really is something that he's saying, no, this isn't just kind of like extracurricular good idea. This stuff is for real. And when our hearts begin to be morphed and begin to be transformed, and when our hearts become formed into his image, then the reality is that what comes out of that is a life that looks radically different. Keep in mind who he's talking to. The people that he's talking to in the Sermon on the Mount, man, these aren't people that are oblivious to God. He's not looking at a bunch of skeptics. He's not looking at a bunch of people who don't really have an idea of God. In fact, they have some form of godliness. They have some awareness of religious understanding. They probably attend church. They probably understand to a level. And yet you've got these Pharisees and these scribes that are living this in such a way that those have become now the cornerstones of what this is supposed to look like. But here's the crazy part about what Jesus is doing. Jesus is actually walking in and just saying, listen, you see these people, you watch how they're doing it, and I'm telling you that if your righteousness is not actually better than theirs, then you can't enter into the kingdom of heaven. If your righteousness doesn't exceed that of the scribes and the Pharisees, church, we have to look at that at some level and just go, holy smokes, because that's what they're doing. They're literally looking at the scribes and the Pharisees and they're going, but don't they have it all figured out? Aren't they doing all of the right things? Aren't they making the right decisions? Aren't they living the life they're supposed to live? And they see them, and he goes, however, if your righteousness doesn't exceed that, and remember, guys, he's not just looking at them and saying, listen, it's just not about going out and doing all of the right stuff. I think we have boiled Christianity down into what's the stuff I need to do instead of what is my heart supposed to be that looks like Jesus so that I actually live the stuff that he's calling me to live. Listen, if our hearts, bear with me when I say this, if our hearts have not changed, our actions will stay the same. If our hearts have not been changed by him, and keep in mind, that's what he does. He says, from one degree of glory to the next, he is transforming us so that we look like Jesus. You look at Ephesians 4, what's the purpose of us even showing up and being the church? Why do we do this? So that we can equip one another, so that we can build one another up, so that we look like him. Well, part of that equipping and part of that forming is getting to the heart of the matter and going, what's wrong here? And not just, why am I doing all of this stuff wrong? So this morning, he jumps into this passage where he begins to kind of give them a deeper look into what this is all about. He gives them a deeper perspective of what living this kingdom life is all about. And I'm going to go ahead and warn you, because over the next several weeks, man, he does not pull any punches. None. And every one of these is something that every one of us at some level probably deals with, has to work through, and he has given us a standard by which how we're supposed to do that. And that's what we look at in this passage this morning. So we're going to look at Matthew chapter 5. We are going to stick in that verse. In Matthew chapter 5, starting in verse 21, here's the passage that he shares. You ready for this? Starting in verse 21, he says, "You have heard that it was said to those of old." Now, let me just stop there for just a minute. What he's correcting here is that there has been some teaching and understanding of what is supposed to look like. You've heard that this is what was said. You have heard that this is how you're supposed to operate. You've heard, and what does he tell us? He said, you've heard it said, "You shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment." Now, here's the crazy thing about that statement. What most of us probably did in this moment is we just kind of went, "All right, I'm good. I'm off the hook on this one." I mean, I hope we're off the hook on this one. If we can't agree on that, I've got some elders. They'll talk with you outside in just a few minutes. But no, it's easy to look at that and go, yeah, okay, well, good. We're on the same page, Jesus. I haven't murdered anybody. You've heard it said? I did that. But here's where he comes in and he begins to raise the bar. So it's not just make sure you don't kill somebody. He goes on and says this, "But I say to you," remember, this is the king, okay? "There is no one like you. Holy are you, day and night, night and day." He's the king. The king sets the ground rules for his kingdom. So you've heard it said, don't kill anybody, but now as the king, entering into my kingdom with a heart that has come poor in spirit, with a heart that is meek, with someone who is hungering and thirsting for righteousness, with someone who is operating in this higher awareness, this higher understanding, mind set on the things above, hearts transformed into the things that are above. Now I'm telling you, there is a different standard that's a little bit more than this, and I need you to grasp. And this is what he says. "But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment." Again, we kind of have to stop and read that slowly. Anyone who is angry with his brother is liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council. And whoever says, "You fool," will be liable to the fire of hell. Yeah, silence is a great way to respond to that. Because what does that do? It begins to make us wonder, man, what is going on in my heart? That Jesus would look at that and say, listen, this is not just about whether or not you're going to kill somebody. This actually has whether to do if in your heart there is anger towards your brother, your sister, your people in Christ, those who are around us. He kind of sets us up in this understanding of what this looks like. He begins to give us a little bit of an idea that our righteousness, okay, and this is something I wanted you to really grasp and understand, that our righteousness is not about just avoiding things. It's about how you're being formed into a heart that's actually towards people. Man, this just cut right through the typical, stereotypical Christianity thing, which is, okay, let me get saved, let me show up to church, let me start having a quiet time, let me serve, let me give, let me do these things. But now he's going, man, I'm going to take this a lot deeper. Now I'm going to start looking at all of the relationships that you have in your life. And we're going to start picking through those. And we're going to start seeing, where has your heart been formed or changed? Or where are you falling short of this standard that I've set of the people who are a part of me in my kingdom? Let's talk about that for just a minute. So here's where he takes us in this passage. He kind of starts helping us understand what this looks like, because I think there's a place we get to that he's leading us in. What typically happens in our lives, something happens, right? Somebody says something, somebody does something, somebody didn't do what they were supposed to do. And what does that do inside of us? We begin to kind of look at them and just going, oh man, like, uncool. And we don't really deal with anything. And then the problem is that when we become disappointed, or we become like frustrated, or man, they just said something that really stepped on our toes, then we begin to go, it's not that just you did something, it's that now you have become that something. And we begin to identify them as, well, no, you're just the problem. No, you are the reason for this. If you would have done this, and if because of you, and this is how, and this is what Jesus begins to talk about. We begin to tear them down from this place of someone who is a child of God. Now we have identified them as something else. And then if we haven't dealt with it at this point in time, it moves into the next place. And this is the whole, like, you fool piece, right? Where he begins to look, and now we look at them and we've written them completely off. We've just written them off. I mean, how many times have we seen maybe in our lives where you're worthless for whatever reason? And this is what he is equating to murder. You've heard it said, don't kill anybody, but I'm telling you, man, if you want to live this life in the kingdom, then how you operate with people when they hurt you, or when they frustrate you, or when they make you mad, then there's a certain standard by which we're called to live. Blessed are the merciful, for they receive mercy. This is the life, church, that he is calling us into, where we take very serious, man, this call of how we're supposed to treat our fellow brothers and sisters. I wonder how many relationships sit in this very room that have been written off. Y'all, he takes this so serious. But let's look how he takes this serious. Let's go back to our passage of what we were looking at. So pick it up in verse 23. He says this: so, if you are offering your gift at the altar. Let me put that in our sense, because we don't bring gifts in here to lay at an altar. You come to church. The band strikes up. You are worthy of it all, and we're just reckless abandonment. God, you are worthy of it all. He stops us mid-here. Mid-here. God, you are my everything. He stops us. And this is what he says. If you're offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you. Yo, he just changed the whole script. Do you see what he just did there? He actually raised the bar even higher. He's saying, who do you have something against? And if you're at the altar and you're worshiping and you remember that actually somebody else has something against you. So yes, who do we have beef with? But then who in our life is looking at us and going, I've got beef with you? Well, what does he say to do at this point in time? He said, leave your gift there before the altar and go. Horizontal beef here disrupts and interrupts vertical worship here. We don't get to bypass people on the way to the altar. He says we're dealing with it so that when we come to the altar, we're ready. This is a bar-raising conversation, church. Unfortunately, it's not a part of a bar that we look at and go, I'm not really interested in that one, though. I don't know that I'm not really that kind of person, Dustin. I don't deal with those kind of things. I just kind of sweep it under the rug, let bygones be bygones. But there's a problem when we do that. You may have forgotten it, but they may not have. Which means they may have the beef. But that's what he tells us. Leave your gift there before the altar and go. He goes on to say this, first be reconciled to your brother, and then come offer your gift. Go deal with this with your brother, and then let's jump back into worship. Let's jump back into bringing our gifts. Let's come back into that place where we stand before the Lord just going, God, I come before you now. Hindrance from everything. Like, God, it's me and you. God, I've dealt with my stuff. God, I've dealt with my people. God, man, I just want to tell you how worthy you are. And there's something about that worship that is pure. And what I think we have the tendency to do sometimes, maybe inside of the church, is we come to the altar so that we can get right with God. And then we go deal with that. He's saying, listen, leave this, go deal with it, and then come back. Gosh, Dustin, that just sounds so drastic. It is. Church, this is why there's scary verses in the Bible that says, wide is the road that leads to destruction, and many people find it, and narrow is the road that leads to life, and few people are on it. Words of Jesus. Wide is the gate, narrow is the gate. Because there are people that will have this kind of struggle that'll say, I'm not interested. I don't know that I can walk that kind of kingdom life if that's what it's going to call me to do. So our relationships, how we're supposed to deal with it. But then he looks at us and he says, he kind of gives us a little bit more to this where he says, first be reconciled to your brother and then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are going with him to court, lest your accuser hand you over to the judge and the judge to the guard and you be put in prison. Truly I say to you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. Again, he's showing the severity of our call as a follower. He's showing the severity. Go and do this quickly. Go and do it quickly so that you can get back to business. So you can get back to business. That might be the fastest sermon that I've preached in a while. Because church, there's only one thing left to do. And it's not to sing another song, tear down, go to lunch, take your nap, great day for it. No, all we've got left to do at this point in time is actually decide whether or not we're going to live this out and do it. So that's it. Like I said, I can sit and we can parse Greek, or we can look at what it says very clear, black and white and red, and decide whether or not we're going to walk in the standard he's called us to so that we can understand what it means to walk in the kingdom of God. So church, where has anger set in that is causing relational strife, that is making it difficult for you to interact with God? I wonder if there's anybody willing enough, even on a morning like this, just to start with just simply saying, you know, D, I got a real short temper. I got a real quick fuse. And I can go to 0 to 60 real quick. You can read all the books in the world that you want about how to deal with anger. But until you realize that sin is not just something you do, but it's actually something that you are, and that Jesus is the only one that can actually change and transform your heart so that you have a heart that wants to be kind, that wants to be pure, that wants to be merciful, that wants to be gentle, that wants to be meek, that wants to be, then you'll always deal with it until you come to terms with the reality that you need Jesus to actually do that. How quick do you find yourself writing people off because of how they treat you or how they treated your kids? That's the worst one. You mess with my kid, well, I'll write you off double. But how quick do we do it? And where do we line up and go, God, where do you want to change me? God, how do you want to morph me and to look more like you? So I ask you this morning, where do you need to do business with God? There may be some of you right now that need to maybe take a step to the back of the room, take your phones with you, and text somebody just saying, I've been needing to say this for a long time, but I've treated you wrong, and I'm sorry. I've been angry with you, and I need to clear this out. Can we go to coffee this week? Can we go to lunch this week? Can we go do something so that we can talk? There may be some of you in this very room, you're angry with your spouse right now. And you're writing that off in this moment of just kind of going, it's part of marriage, I'll get over it, it'll be fine. Until one day they become a fool in your heart. And we write them off. Happens. Because we didn't deal with the anger. Some of you kiddos, you may be in here and you may be mad at your parents. And it may be something that you need to look at them and just go, I've been mad, I've been angry, and it changes how I want to treat you. And I'm sorry. Can we work through that? Can we take this to the Lord? Can we pray with somebody? I don't know. But what if your awareness of God's kingdom changes for the good because you're willing to just be obedient? Would you do it? Would you do it? Would you deal with some hard stuff in order to maybe be set back right? Listen, here's a beautiful thing. God's grace is sufficient no matter what. Okay? At the end of the day, it doesn't come down to how well you do this or how awesome you are at this. It has to do with whether or not you're willing to let the one who's changed your heart actually change your actions too. So let's do it. So we're going to do business with God today, all right? And we've got plenty of time to do it. Where do you need to deal with your anger? Who do you need to deal with your anger with? How can someone walk with you and pray with you to help you navigate this so that you can taste and see that he's good? You can taste and see that. I'm going to ask you just to bow your heads for a minute. We're going to enter into a time of just, God, I need to hear from you.